All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into wedding dress shopping.
Oh, fun!
Yeah.
I love
Or
weddings.
doesn't.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, except for the people that don't like weddings,
true.
right?
But yeah, we're really going to be focusing on kind of this dynamic between the bride and her mom when it comes to choosing that perfect dress.
Yes.
And our source material for this is actually a blog post from a bridal shop
Oh, cool.
called Darianna Bridal and Tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
And the blog post is called Mom, She Wants Your Opinion.
Ooh, that's a good title.
Right. It definitely got me interested.
Yes.
And they made this really interesting point that, like, you'd think
Okay.
with all the, Pinterest boards and Instagram and all these different places where brides can be getting inspiration for their wedding look and their dress, that mom's opinion maybe wouldn't be as important anymore.
Yeah, you would think with all these outside sources that maybe mom's opinion would fall by the wayside,
Right.
but apparently not.
Not at all. Like they say, no matter how many people you bring to that appointment,
Yeah.
the bride's always going to turn to mom for that final, like, stamp of approval.
Yeah, what is it about mom?
I know.
It is interesting.
Why is her opinion
What is it about that dynamic
so much more valuable?
that makes it so powerful?
Right. And they talk about trust a lot.
Yes.
A mother and a daughter typically have a very long history together.
Right from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
They've seen it all.
They've been through all the ups and downs together, good
That's
times, bad times, all of it.
Shared so many experiences.
Yes. And so, that bond that they build
Mm-hmm.
really forms a foundation of understanding that goes beyond just words.
Right. It's like the blog talks about how mom has, she's lived it all. She's felt it all, maybe even harder than the bride herself in some ways.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So when she gives her opinion, it just carries that much more weight.
Exactly. And it's not just about, like, does this dress look good on you?
It's like, I trust your judgment, Mom. I trust your taste. Mm-hmm. But I also trust your understanding of, like, who I am as a person.
Yeah, like she's saying, you're making a good choice.
Right.
You look beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. There's definitely that emotional component there.
Absolutely.
But what about the moms who, their opinion might not be so positive?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what about when mom doesn't love the dress?
Right.
The blog actually broke down a few common mom responses.
Oh, interesting.
And I think it's really fascinating because you can kind of read between the lines and see this deeper level of communication happening.
Oh, yeah. Mothers and daughters.
Right.
They have their own language.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So the first one was the I love it moms.
Oh, the moms who love everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And the blog was kind of saying, like, that's not always the most helpful response.
Yeah, I mean, how do you really know if they love it or if they're just saying that?
Right. Is it a strategy? Are they just trying to keep things light?
I think it's probably a combination. Some moms are just naturally like,
Enthusiastic.
yes, everything's wonderful.
Everything's great.
But, sometimes maybe they are trying to just avoid conflict, especially if it's early on in the process.
Yeah, they're just like, let's keep the mood up.
Exactly.
We'll get to the real opinions later.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the total opposite end of the spectrum, you have the I don't like that at all moms.
Oh, them are like, right.
The ones who just tell it like it is.
Yes, honesty all
Anyway, but even there, it's interesting because the blog was saying that a lot of times mom will communicate this response even before the dress is fully revealed.
Oh, yeah.
Like she sees you coming out of the dressing room and you can just tell by her face.
They've got this, like, sixth sense,
Right. It's like that unspoken language.
Yeah.
They know each other so well.
It's almost like mom can predict
Yeah.
how her daughter is going to feel about a dress, even before.
Just by looking at it.
Yeah. I know growing up, I would always raid my mom's closet, and we'd talk about clothes and what we liked and didn't like. And maybe it's that kind of stuff that builds that foundation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That unspoken language.
That shared history.
Yeah.
It doesn't just start with the wedding planning. It's years
Yeah.
of observing each other's style and giving each other feedback.
Right.
Maybe even disagreeing about fashion choices.
Exactly. And then by the time the wedding dress shopping rolls around, it's like they've already got this whole vocabulary.
Yes, exactly.
And then there are the moms who kind of try to find that middle ground.
Okay.
Like they're trying to be honest but also supportive.
Yeah.
So they'll say something like, it's not my favorite, but if you like it, that's all that matters.
Right.
Which I think is so interesting because it makes you think, what is the bride really looking for in that moment?
Yeah. Is it just like a thumbs up, thumbs down on the dress, or is it something more?
Right.
Yeah. Is she actually looking for validation from mom, even if she's asking about the dress itself?
Because the blog seemed to think that was the case.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense.
Right.
When you think about it. I mean, wedding dress shopping is a big deal.
It is.
It's not just about finding a dress.
Yeah.
It's about, finding the perfect dress for this huge day.
Right, this very loaded moment.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much pressure.
So many expectations.
So many opinions and anxieties.
Absolutely. So in that context, mom's approval becomes a lot more than just a fashion critique.
Right. It's almost like she's giving permission or approval for the whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not just saying, that looks good on you,
Yeah.
but also, like, you're making good choices.
Right.
You're on the right path.
You get this.
Yeah. And I think that can be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Especially, during such an overwhelming and exciting time.
The blog actually claimed that the worst possible response is a mom who just refuses to give any opinion at all.
Oh, yeah. It's your dress. I'm not giving my opinion, Mom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that would be frustrating.
Right, because you're probably getting so many opinions from everyone else.
Everyone and their mother.
Right, but then your own mother's like, I'm not going to weigh in.
Yeah, like I don't care enough to even have an opinion.
Right, or I don't want to like step on your toes.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the opposite effect.
Right. You need that support.
Exactly.
Especially from moms.
Yeah, so we've got all these different mom responses, and they're all kind of fascinating in their own way. But it seems like the common thread is that,
Okay.
regardless of what mom actually says,
Yeah.
the bride is looking for something more than just a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the dress.
Right. She wants that deeper connection and understanding.
Absolutely. She wants validation, reassurance,
Hmm.
and that understanding that really can only come from a long-standing, close relationship built on trust and shared history.
Yeah. It makes you realize how much weight these seemingly simple interactions can actually carry.
Totally. Like, you think it's just about the dress,
Right.
but it's actually about so much more.
It's about the relationship.
And I think that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is so interesting about this article is like, it goes beyond just the surface level of like, does mom like the dress or not? It's like it digs into those reasons of why mom's opinion matters so much.
Yeah, they had this great line
Okay.
where they were describing that mother-daughter bond.
Yeah.
And they said, Mom has known her daughter the longest, has felt the ups and downs of her daughter's life harder than her daughter has her back, and will never steer her in the wrong direction.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I know.
I love that.
It's so true.
That really like encapsulates why mom's validation is so important.
Yeah.
Like she's saying, I know you, I trust you,
Right.
I believe in you,
I believe in your happiness.
and your choices.
Yeah, and think about the timing of this, too.
Right.
This is a major life decision.
Huge.
So many emotions swirling around,
Absolutely.
like anxieties and external pressures.
So to have mom there in your corner just being supportive,
Can be so grounding.
absolutely. Yeah, it brings a sense of stability, I think,
Right.
in the midst of all that chaos.
Exactly. And the blog also talked about this idea that, a lot of times mothers and daughters will just have this unspoken understanding
Yeah.
of what feels right.
Right.
Like you could just tell when the bride has found the one,
Yes.
even if it wasn't what they were expecting.
It's that shared history.
Right.
All those years of, observing each other and
Yeah.
knowing what makes each other feel beautiful and confident.
Right. It's like a sixth sense almost.
It is. It really is.
So it's not just mom saying, this dress looks good on you.
No.
It's mom saying, this dress reflects who you are.
Exactly.
This is you. This is your best self.
Yes, this is the you that I know.
Yeah, and that's so powerful.
It is a really deep level of validation, I think,
Totally.
that goes beyond just the superficial.
Right, and of course, we have to acknowledge that not every bride has this picture-perfect relationship with their mom.
Well, of course not.
So what about those situations where maybe that dynamic isn't as positive, or maybe mom isn't even in the picture?
Right.
Does this whole idea of needing a mother's validation still apply?
I think the need is still there,
Okay.
but the source of that validation might be different.
Oh, okay.
That it could be a close friend, a sibling, an aunt, a mentor, somebody who can step into that role.
So it's not necessarily about the specific person.
Right.
It's more about having that person you trust.
Yes. Somebody who really knows you and wants the best for you.
Yeah, who can offer that support and reassurance.
Yes. Especially during those big moments.
Right.
When you need it most.
Exactly. The blog also had some advice for like navigating this whole process,
Oh, cool.
both for brides and, the people who are there to support them.
Mm-hmm.
And they said one thing to keep in mind is to keep the entourage small.
Oh, that's good advice.
Right.
It's easy to get carried away and invite everybody,
I know.
but it can be too much.
Too many opinions.
Way too many opinions.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose sight of like what the bride actually wants.
Exactly. Like you need to create that space where the bride feels comfortable
Yes.
to try on different things.
Yeah.
Express what she likes and doesn't like.
Right. Find your own voice.
Exactly.
Mm.
And ultimately, make a decision that feels right for her.
Yes.
And I think for those of us who are, offering support in those moments, sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen,
Yes.
offer encouragement, and remind the bride of her own strength and beauty.
It's about being a sounding board, not a dictator.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you're there to help her figure out what she wants,
Right.
not tell her what to do.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think it's about celebrating the bride's journey
Yes.
and, supporting her in creating a wedding that really reflects who she is.
Absolutely.
Gosh, this whole deep dive has been so interesting.
It has.
It's amazing how something like wedding dress shopping
Yeah.
can reveal so much about, family dynamics
Right.
and the power of a mother's love and support.
It is powerful.
So to kind of wrap things up,
Okay.
what have we learned today?
I think we learned that a mother's opinion in wedding dress shopping goes far beyond just fashion advice. It's really about trust and that shared history.
Yeah.
And ultimately about that unwavering support and love.
Right. Like it's about validation and reassurance during a really big life transition.
Yes.
And even if that support isn't coming from mom,
Yeah.
that need for connection and that trusted confidant is still so important.
Exactly. Well said.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about.
I know.
But before we go, we want to leave you with one final thought. Okay, so we've been talking about wedding dresses, but kind of makes you think, what other decisions are out there?
Oh, yeah.
That might seem simple on the surface,
Right.
but actually have like this deeper meaning within families,
Yeah. Like where somebody else's opinion really matters.
especially like our parents.
Oh, totally.
Like it could be something small, like picking a paint color for your living room,
Yeah.
or something big, like
Oh, I know.
deciding where to live or what career to pursue.
It's interesting how those opinions can
Right.
really carry so much weight.
Yeah. And I think it's because of those, close relationships we build.
Yeah, those bonds from early on in our lives.
Exactly. And even when we're adults and making our own
I
choices,
still want that approval.
it's like those voices are still in our heads.
Totally. Like you can't escape it.
And maybe we are looking for approval, or maybe it's reassurance, or maybe it's just that sense of connection and
Yeah.
shared history that makes us feel grounded.
Makes you feel like you're not alone
Right.
in those big decisions.
And it's interesting to think about, like, are we consciously seeking out advice, or are we just looking for validation for choices we've already made?
I think it depends on the person and the situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really do want advice.
Right.
And sometimes you just want somebody to tell you you did the right thing.
Totally. And it makes you think, like, are these decisions actually opportunities to, like, strengthen those family bonds?
I like that.
To kind of reaffirm the trust and understanding.
Yeah,
that we have.
like a chance to reconnect
Right.
on a deeper level.
Yeah, so as you're going about your day, making those everyday choices, big or small,
Yeah.
think about whose opinion really matters to you.
Yeah. Who are you going to for advice?
Right. And what are you really looking for when you ask for that input?
It's a good thing to think about.
It is.
And I think this deep dive has given us a lot to ponder.
It really has.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.